Hi, it's Will from StormingCastle.com, and this is my latest tutorial. It's a tutorial on how to sculpt a GegenHound. It's a little miniature GegenHound, a small one. You probably don't know what a GegenHound is, but it's a creature from my upcoming novel, The Left-Handed Sword, and it's kind of like a dog, but it's got some distinct differences to it. The thing about GegenHounds is they're very strong, very tough. They have this extra combat here tool is the tail that they can lash with, but they're not very bright, and that kind of comes out in the novel. But what I wanted to say is this is a tutorial, I guess. Otherwise, we'll show you just some overview of how to sculpt a four-legged creature, because I have a lot of sculpting miniatures tutorials, something like 20 of them, and I don't think I've ever done a four-legged creature. So in this, I'll show you how to do it from, pretty much from beginning to end. I can't show you the whole process, because it just takes too long. It takes hours for me to sculpt something like this. But I can give you, show you parts of it where I do the wire armature and fill out the clay and do the musculature and stuff like that. So let's launch into the tutorial on how to sculpt a miniature GegenHound. Okay, so this is where we start out. This is where we always start out, is creating a wire armature. So I just twisted up some 16 gauge wire and then shaped it into a good shape for, the GegenHound. From there, and I also soldered it. From there, now I'm going to start just bulking out that figure. So you just, apply clay just to get the major shapes of the creature. And an interesting thing here to see is that, one of his legs is lifted. So that's something to think about. The pose of you want to get the pose as early as possible. Try to get that gesture with the armature. That's important. It makes a big difference in how it'll come out. So just fill it all out. Establish the shape, the basic shape of the creature. And here we go. I've got it all filled out. I started to sculpt it a little bit. So now I'm going to use some tools, some small pick tools, to start to establish the musculature. See the elbow there. I'm just starting to get the major shapes. It's starting to look like a figure. If you have to look at pictures of different creatures, do that to try to understand what the muscles do and how they look. So I've done most of that, and now I'm starting to work into some of the detail work, and that's an important tip. If you want to sculpt, you always start with your big basic shapes first, and you work your way down into the details little by little. So I'm just, starting to establish the look of the figure and the muscles. I've added the tail here. I just put a piece of wire and put clay on it. So once, I've got it looking pretty good, now I need to do the detail work. And for me, and this is good for you too, and especially if your figure is really small, get some kind of a magnifier and start to use your detail work. I'm using pick tools. I used all kinds of tools for this. A pin, toothpicks, small pick tools, and start to get the details on your figure. And if you're using, some kind of a creature with fur, this is the point where you want to start to sculpt in that fur. Now I'm going to paint it. First I apply a coat of primer. You should always use primer if you can. It will prepare the material, and your color will take really well. It's much better. I like a gray primer. Seems to give me better resolution. Now the painting. I started out with almost a base of gray. The base coat, the color, kind of the color of the animal's fur. It's kind of a gray. So I did a lot of that first, a lot of the gray. I used a very rough bristle brush to keep, to get my stripes in there and to kind of like swipe in the fur texture. So there's sometimes old brushes that are really stiff, actually work pretty well. You should always keep them because you never know when you're going to use them. See how it gives like a grainy pattern, a fur pattern. Once it's painted, I'm happy with the painting. Then we seal it with some kind of a spray fixative. So I do have a whole bunch of tutorials on how to sculpt. It takes you from the very beginning. We sculpt a 6-inch figure, and then a 3-inch figure, and then we sculpt a tiny 28mm figure, and I show you all the tips and techniques, even painting techniques on how to do that. So I'll put the link at the end of this video. And that's it. That's how to sculpt a miniature four-legged creature. In this case, a GegenHound. It's a character. The GegenHounds are in my upcoming novel, The Left-Handed Sword. Thanks for watching. Plenty more sculpting miniatures tutorials here and on my website at stormthecastle.com.